Imagine we have this much area and we have to fit in this pipe in it. How do we go about it? This pipe, which is almost many times the length of this area, can be accommodated only when coiled or folded several times. Same is the case with the next part of the alimentary canal. And which is this organ? Well, after the stomach in our previous video, now we'll be discussing about the small intestine. In our last video, we learnt about the food pipe and the stomach and how they participate either directly or indirectly in the process of digestion. The esophagus helps in easy passage of food, while the stomach is in charge of the majority of the digestion. But does the process end here? No. The process continues and the partly digested food reaches the next part of the canal. This is called the small intestine. Is this part really small as its name suggests? Nope. We should really not go by its name. That's because it's not really very small. Rather, it's a very long coiled tube. But then why is it called the small intestine? Well, that's because the diameter of this tube is quite small. So it's the diameter and not its length that gives it name. The complete structure is very long. So to understand it better, we divide the coiled part in 3 distinct regions. These are called the duodenum, jejunum, and ileum. The semi-digested food from the stomach is passed on to the duodenum first. Is this part involved in further digestion of the food? Actually, yes. When the partially digested food enters the duodenum, it gets mixed with the 2 major secretions. These secretions come from the 2 most important glands, that is, the liver and the pancreas. We will learn about these glands later in the videos based on digestive glands. For now, all we need to know is that carbohydrates, proteins, and fats get digested partly as they reach the duodenum and then completely as they pass through the small intestine. So the carbohydrates, proteins, and fats are gradually broken down further as they span the small intestine completely. That is, as they pass through jejunum and ileum. Now tell me one thing. What does the alimentary canal do with so much of digested food? I mean, how does it make sure that the nutrients reach all the cells? Well, that begins with the next step of the absorption of nutrients. And needless to say, it occurs in the intestines. Rather, the small intestine plays a major role in absorption. If we zoom in the structure of the small intestine here, we find that the pipe consists of cells having these finger-like projections called the villi. And when we zoom in these villi, we find that they're made up of cells which again have smaller finger-like projections. And what will these be called? The smaller ones are called microvilli. The whole purpose of having these villi and microvilli is to increase the surface area. And what does that help in? An increased surface area helps in better and greater absorption. Each villi is like a single finger, which is hollow from within. Inside it, as we can see here, there are blood capillaries that help in carrying the nutrients absorbed. And what are these structures? These are called as lacteals. Their major function is to absorb the small globules of fat which cannot directly enter these blood capillaries. So this is how absorption takes place in the small intestine. And what next? After the small intestine absorbs most of the nutrients, the remaining undigested food is passed on to the next part of the alimentary canal. Let's have a look at this part, the large intestine, in detail in the next video.